Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Tina Yang. I am the host of the Women's Health and Fertility podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's interview is with Ashley Rocha, the CEO and founder of Ladywell. Ashley is a trained herbalist specializing in women's health, and her company, Ladywell, gives women the tools to care for their hormones and well being through targeted life stage supplements. And Ladywell has helped thousands of women regain hormone balance, fix their PMS symptoms, improve fertility, and gracefully navigate perimenopause to live pain-free, fulfilling lives. Welcome, Ashley, and thank you so much for being on our podcast today. So, I would love to just start by asking you a couple questions about your background and how you got inspired to create Ladywell and your amazing line of herbs and supplements.
Yeah, so I began Ladywell because it's a mission-driven company. It was formed because of my own health struggles with hormone imbalance. Since the moment I went through puberty, I was thrown into a cycle of these intense mood swings once a month. And this went on for 2 decades. I had really bad period cramps. So I was taking like up to 20 Advil a day. Whenever I
Mm,
went to my doctor, they would just prescribe me hormonal birth control or SSRIs. And it never really solved the issue. I knew I wasn't depressed, so I didn't need SSRIs. I dabbled in a lot of different birth controls, and they never really worked. There's so many side effects because of them. And it wasn't until my mid 30s when I started to try to get pregnant, and I was slow to get pregnant. I really focused on my hormones. I realized there was some kind of imbalance going on. I really need to pay attention to this because I want to get pregnant.
right.
I'm an herbalist, so I was studying herbalism at the time. So I really looked to the plant world to solve my imbalances because I knew the power of plants, and I also wasn't getting the answers through mainstream medicine. So I worked with a
Yeah.
naturopathic doctor and found all these different beautiful herbs, functional mushrooms, adaptogens that helped me solve my hormonal imbalance issues. So I had PMDD, and I went from having PMDD to not within like 6 months. So this is something that I had for 2 decades. I was able to fix and unravel with lifestyle changes. So of course, eating right, exercise, and supplements. And I also have two baby boys now, so I was able to get
Mhm.
pregnant. And so my
Nice.
life just significantly changed, and I'm in such a better place. My mood's better, more stable. I'm able to be a good parent too, because I have control over my hormones, which I think is a big piece of motherhood. But yeah, like if you want to get pregnant and there's hormonal imbalances, it's going to be a lot harder. And it took me to getting to that point to really address my issues. But I didn't really know that I had hormonal symptoms because we're not educated about our hormones.
Right.
The doctor
Right.
never was like telling me that this is hormonal. Like I was told PMS is normal and that this is just part of being a woman. I didn't know that I didn't have to live like this and there were solutions. And so I want
Mhm.
other women to have access to these solutions easily. I want to make education, more widespread. We don't talk about our hormones enough. There is a lot more conversation around women's health and hormones in general. So that's amazing. We're going in the right direction. We just, need more.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, Ashley. I think in our practice, being a Chinese medicine doctor practicing functional medicine and Chinese medicine, there's definitely a gap, right, between phases of life and Western medicine and what it has to offer. So, like yourself, I see a lot of patients that haven't really been given any alternatives except birth control in their youth, to deal with a myriad of symptoms, including PMS, acne, painful menstruation. It's always seems like birth control is like the default. And
Yeah.
which, to us, it's frustrating, I think, as practitioners because there's so much more out there. And I'm really glad you were able to explore those options for yourself and find solutions outside of Western medicine that worked for you. So that's really amazing. And I'm glad that you're sharing this story because I think a lot of young women need to know that they have choices, and that they don't have to just turn to birth control as the only solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, being able to offer that is amazing. And I saw you have a different line, kind of like for different conditions. What are some of the top women's health hormonal conditions that you treat with your supplement line? I'd like to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we're really focused on meeting women where they're at every life
Hmm.
stage. We're on a hormonal health journey, whether we like it or not, from puberty all the way into menopause, which is reverse puberty. And so we target women at different stages. So PMS, PCOS, PMDD area, to fertility. So we have fertility targeting supplements for fertility and egg health. And then we have prenatals, which you'll take when you're trying to get pregnant, while you're
Hmm.
pregnant, and postpartum as well. And then we have supplements for perimenopause. So perimenopause is a huge part of your life as a woman and can last, it's like 10 years long. So it's a really long time. It can be really disruptive to daily
Yes, ma'am.
life.
That's my
Yeah.
phase right now. So yes.
Yeah. So you know what's up.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So yeah, we have different supplements for different life stages where you're at. Mhm.
Yeah, amazing. So I kind of took a look a little bit at your formulas, but I wanted to hear more about the blends because they're very unique. And it looks like there's a combination of nutrients, supplements, and maybe even some Chinese herbs. Is that correct?
Yeah, we like to approach our formulation from a lens of Eastern and Western medicine. We
Hmm.
have a team of diverse doctors that help us formulate, and some are more focused on fertility, some are more focused on perimenopause. So just different specialties and life stages as well. And yes, we like to bring in traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and like for example, our daily hormone balance really combines herbs, adaptogens, functional mushrooms, vitamins, amino acids into one formula. I want the formulas we create to work really hard and be comprehensive and robust. When I
Hmm.
was going through my struggles and solving my issues, I was taking like 20 tinctures a day and it was really
Yes.
overwhelming and like mixing a lot of stuff. And I knew it wasn't sustainable. Like I was like, I
Right.
can't continue to do this. And also just women in general, like we're so busy. Like a normal person just can't keep up with that or put that together in the first place. I wanted to create something that you didn't have to rely on going into naturopathic doctor necessarily, because it's kind of unaffordable for some people. Something that's more accessible and that simplified the process. So instead of having to stack multiple supplements, you can just take our daily hormone balance, and that's just really
Yes.
nice and
Right.
broad, nice
Hmm.
foundational broad supplement for all women.
Yes. I love that about your formulas because I did see that you had some really unique combinations. And it is true. Like I talking to patients, they're like, I feel like it's my part-time job taking supplements and
Yeah.
deciphering when to take what, what time of my cycle. So it's nice that you have created these balanced blends that kind of, touch on multiple things. So
Right.
I do have a question as far as your fertility and egg quality blend. How long do you generally recommend patients to take your supplements prior to trying, or is it something that they can just take concurrently while they're trying?
Well, you should take it concurrently while you're trying, but you should start at least 90 days in advance. I would
Mhm.
start 6 months in advance. The egg maturation cycle is 90 days. So you want to make sure that you're getting the supplements into your body,
Right.
before that. So you have the best genetic material to form our eggs and our baby and our embryo. And especially
Absolutely.
we're talking about prenatals too. So you want to start taking those as well. I would take a
Mhm.
prenatal a year in advance personally. I think it's great to get your nutrient stores up to make sure that it's good for you and your future baby.
Mhm.
It's just, an easy thing to do and it'll set you off on the right foot. And then when it comes to hormonal imbalances, you want to make sure those are being taken care of. So a lot of women just like all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to get pregnant and just start trying to get pregnant. But if you have been having PMS your whole life, that's a sign that there are
Mhm.
hormonal imbalances or
Absolutely.
anything. And those are going to make it harder to get pregnant. So it's better to take care of that stuff in advance and try to get your hormone imbalances in order, go off birth control, like see where you're at, just get some baseline hormone care started. Like I would say years in advance. Like you should be doing it now, like just for your own sake. to
In an
prevent,
ideal world,
yeah,
Ashley, right? If
yeah,
there was the time factor, if that was allowed, yeah.
right. But if you have irregular cycles, that's a red flag that there might be something wrong with your hormones. And you don't want to just
Right.
wait until you want to get pregnant to address that because it's gonna be really stressful when you like want to get pregnant and your cycle length is not consistent. You don't know when you're ovulating. Your
Totally.
cycle, if you skip cycles, that's just a sign you have hormonal imbalances in general.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like for some of your formulations, it could be treating PMDD or PCOS in conjunction with taking some of the egg quality fertility supplements too, right?
Yeah, I would say best case scenario is that you take our daily hormone balance, which will help you with your hormone balance, cycle management, stress management, and then you use the egg quality, which is our fertility and egg health. That will help boost your fertility and your egg quality, and then take your prenatal for your nutrients. So
Hmm.
those three are really like the magic combination.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So 3, 6 months up to a year or whenever they can start.
Yeah,
Okay. And
exactly.
what about for your patients that are nursing and they're looking more for like postpartum support and hormone balancing? Is there a formulation that would be appropriate for those women that are still nursing? But
Yeah, nursing is hard because it's the same thing as being pregnant. We don't really test on nursing and
mm,
pregnant women. It's unethical. So there's not
mhm.
going to be a lot of data around how these herbs, like, people can't really recommend things for nursing and pregnant women. I personally took the daily hormone balance when I was nursing and I was in postpartum because it helps you balance your hormones. It helps you
Yeah,
regulate stress. It helped me dramatically. I never had any post baby blues or depression or anything like that. And so it really helped me get my hormones back in balance. And then there are herbs that, like fenugreek, and those are ones that your doctor will tell you to take for breast milk production. I think shatavari is a good one as well. That one will
mhm.
help you, and that's will help with breast milk, I think, as well. And so, yeah, the daily hormone balance is great for postpartum, and magnesium is great for women at all stages, even
Mhm.
pregnancy.
Mhm.
I had really bad leg cramps during pregnancy, so it really helped with that. But most women are magnesium deficient, even though we can get it from our food. We really just don't because our diets are not the best in America, and our food system is just all messed up. So supplementing with magnesium, I would recommend to most women. It will help you with your sleep. It helps with so many things, hormone
For
balance,
sure.
cramps.
Yeah.
And at Ladywell, we have a spray that you just spray on your feet, your legs before you
Mm.
go to bed, and super easy.
Mhm.
It's like a moment of self care in the day. And
I
it's,
love that.
it's
Yeah.
lovely. And it helps you like, float away into a nice dreamland.
Yeah. Well, I use magnesium quite a bit for bowel regulation too.
Yeah, that's
So I'm
great.
sure that that's part of the purpose of having it in your formulas too.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about some of your experience as an herbalist. What are some of the other lifestyle changes that you would recommend for women that are trying to get their hormones kind of in check and as balanced as possible?
Yeah, so sleep is very important for getting your hormones balanced. Sleep is important for everything in your life. So making sure that you have good sleep hygiene, going to sleep at the same time every night, getting enough rest. Magnesium will help you sleep. Once again, it's like as a mom, I have issues sleeping sometimes. Like I'm always like on call. So
Right, right.
even when they don't wake up, I wake up. So whatever you can do to ensure that you have better sleep, it will be really helpful. And then minimizing stress in your life. Wreaks havoc on hormones. And then especially when it comes to fertility, if you're trying to get pregnant, stress is your enemy. It's really bad for your hormones. And it's really hard not to be stressed out when you're trying to get pregnant and you really want to. So
Right.
it's a hard time, but things like bringing adaptogens into your diet or into your supplements is a great way to help you with stress resilience. They will help your body build the resilience to stress, so when stress comes into your life, you can respond in a better way, mentally and physically. Instead of like clenching up, you'll roll with the punches more, and it won't have that negative effect on your body like it usually does. So I always recommend people take adaptogens like ashwagandha is what's in our daily hormone balance. And these are great for everybody, not just women at different stages, because we're all stressed out in this world. And as
For
much as I would
sure.
say reduce the stress, which I
Right.
definitely recommend, but I know that's not always reality. Life happens. So why not help ourselves and support ourselves? And like these little life hacks are great.
Yes, for sure. Do you have any particular herbs in general that are your favorite for stress reduction?
I like ashwagandha. I think ashwagandha is really great in general. Yeah.
Yeah. And anything else besides ashwagandha, magnesium?
Yeah, I think shatavari is such an amazing herb. It's for female reproductive health in
Hmm.
general. It supports
Hmm.
estrogen balance, egg quality, uterine health. Um, a lot of herbs in general do help with stress as a secondary counterpoint to them. So
Hmm.
all these herbs really have a lot of different ways they help you. So, and it's also the combination of them together. So the synergy of the blends that solve a lot of these issues. So like, for example, when Dong Quai is paired with Vitex, it'll bring out different elements to them and make everything work better. So that's why I recommend when women shop for supplements that they're buying supplements that are like nice cohesive formulas that are really thought
Right.
through instead of you hear about, say, for example, Vitex or chasteberry. Like we know that's really good for women's health, like a really popular herb. But if you just go buy it by itself, you might not be getting all the benefits as somebody who formulated it with other herbs and mushrooms or whatever to bring out great elements of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do agree on that synergistic effect too, where you're just getting more out of the combination versus just the single herb by itself sometimes too.
Yeah.
So,
And then
yeah,
also holy basil is great for stress and lemon balm. You can get lemon
lemon
balm
balm.
tea,
Yes.
yeah. And
Yeah.
reishi mushrooms is good for a
Okay.
mushroom, yeah.
Well, great. Actually, I was just wondering if patients have questions about your supplements. Is there like a chat forum or something that people can access your team to ask questions about your
Yeah, if you go to our
formulations?
website, we have a little chat, a little floating chat thing in the corner that you can just click on and ask the question. And if we're online, we will answer. If not, it gets emailed to you, the response. And yeah, we're
Okay.
always happy to help because I know hormonal health is complicated. I was definitely in the depths of it for many years, and it's still complicated, right? There's less studies about women's health, a lot of clinical trials and just trials, like research was done on men's bodies because
Mm,
they found women to be too complicated because our hormones were overly complicated. So they took us
sure.
out of the studies. So women's health has been understudied, misunderstood. I think somebody just told me yesterday, doctors only get like 3 hours of menopause training in school, which is shocking because it's a huge part of women's lives and
Right.
we're so underserved. So yes, we try to educate as much as possible. That's part of my mission is to explain what hormones are, explain what hormonal health is, tell you how to take care of your hormones, how you can find solutions, natural solutions for that. So yes.
That's awesome. Do you guys offer any type of education programs too, or like discovery calls or anything like that for
Oh,
your
I would love to
clients?
do calls with anybody, but
Okay.
on TikTok and Instagram and social media, we put out and YouTube, we put out long form and short form content around your hormones, just educational videos. But yeah,
Amazing.
I also host like group talks around perimenopause and fertility often. So
Nice.
if anybody is interested in that, you can reach out to me and I can help create a talk for like a meeting for a group of people.
That
I
sounds
do new
awesome.
mom groups, like want to talk about
Yeah, I'll make sure to
postpartum.
share all your
Yeah.
contact info so they
Mhm.
can reach out for sure. And also, listen to some of the education tips that you have posted out there on your socials and YouTube also.
Yeah.
So this is kind of an interesting question, but what do you think, what are some of the gaps in the supplement industry that you noticed as you started your own company? Because it's a big feat to start your own supplement company. So I'm just curious, like it must have been so rewarding to grow it, like build it. So I kind of wanted to ask you about that. I also have my own Chinese herbal line too, but in the very, very baby stages. So I wanted to ask you this question just about the supplement industry in general and some of the trials and tribulations that you had to go through to get to where you're at.
Yeah, I think I mean, we have to overcome people who think that natural solutions don't work because we're so brainwashed in America to be like, it has to be a pharmaceutical or it won't work. So there's that piece. And then just launching supplements in general, I have to balance, like I want to create supplements that work, right? Like that's my first goal. Like what's the point if we're not doing that? And it's
Mm-hmm.
really expensive to use the highest quality ingredients and add enough of the actives in there so you're getting enough of them because a lot of supplements on the market, they'll have these ingredients that are great in there, but they only use like a little itsy bits amount,
Right,
especially
right.
gummies. Like you can't even get enough in gummies, so you're just wasting your time really. But it's expensive to create great supplements and use great great ingredients and enough of them. So you get the balance between creating an accessible product with creating a product that is really efficacious. And a lot of brands out there are really just, like I said, don't have enough actives in them.
Right.
And, you know, they're just trying to make money. So
Hmm.
they have to, it's a balance there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how would you differentiate the herbs that you've sourced and the supplements for your products?
I would say our differentiator is our formulation. So we're using the most high quality, cleanest ingredients we can, and then we're using enough of them to be effective. So I always want to make sure that, like, yeah, the ingredients are, the formulations are effective. So we have to just be using the right amounts. We test all our products. I think that should be table stakes. You want to, when you're looking to buy supplements from companies, you want to make sure they're testing their products to be safe for your consumption. I think it's great to buy products that are in glass jars, that are not in plastic. Plastic
Hmm.
leaches into your supplements. And especially when it comes to our hormones and our fertility, endocrine disruptors are your enemy. They cause infertility, they cause hormonal imbalance. So plastic containers will just be adding to the problem. So we try to do like just small things like that. But those, once again, like when I'm building a supplement company, a glass jar is more expensive for me to choose in a plastic container. So I'm
For
not cutting
sure.
corners. And so I'm definitely making less money than a lot of these supplements. But what matters to me is I'm trying to add positive things in the world and solve actual health problems, not just make a profit.
Right. And at the end of the day, you can stand by your product and say,
Yes. And then at
yeah,
the end of the day,
this
it will
is
work better for women
for
and
sure.
I'll have longevity with my company.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. Those are really important things, I think, when you're looking at taking supplements.
Yeah.
So, what would you say if you were to give like a piece of advice to women in any phase, really? What advice would you give for them to help them get through some of the ups and downs that we go through with the hormonal shifts that that we get to experience through our life? It's just part of being a woman.
Yeah, I would embrace it. I wouldn't push against it. You know, your periods can definitely be annoying. I think the most important thing you can do is start tracking your cycle, understanding your cycle. I think when you start doing that, you start appreciating your cycle and your body and having a sense of embodiment and just a general connection to what it means to be a woman. If you're tracking your cycle and you know what your cycle really means, then you will be in a better place just for health in general. You can organize your schedule around your cycle, which is really helpful just for like productivity and daily life
Yeah,
hacks. When you try to get pregnant at some point in your life, if you want to, it'll be so much easier if you know what your cycle is. And then if you'll be able to identify if you're having PMDD or PMS. Like for me, my cycle always snuck up upon me every month, and I was always shocked. Like when
right.
my period came, I was like, oh my God, that was why I was so upset last week,
It
or
all
shouldn't have
makes
been.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this went on for like 2 decades, and it was always such a surprise. And
Mhm.
it's just so funny. But now that I track my cycle, I'm like, okay, I know what to expect. I can,
Totally.
empower the people around me, like my husband, like I'm going to be in my period next week or this phase of my
Be
cycle.
warned,
Yeah, be
right?
warned. Like, but it'll help it avoid conflict, and it just has
Mhm.
improved my life so much. And then if you ever want to go to the doctor about any hormonal imbalances or health issues, your period is your fifth vital sign. So it's going to tell you a lot about your health in general. And then you'll have all this data to bring to your doctor or your naturopathic doctor if you ever want to ask questions about that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite tracking systems?
I use an app called Lively, but the health app on your phone, I think, is just as good too.
Mhm.
There's a great book. It's a journal called Inflow Planner. It,
Yes.
yeah, that one's really great. It helps you, it gives you information about your cycle and helps you track your period and your cycle, and also integrates productivity tips. And it's nice. It's
I
great.
love that. No, it is so true. I think there's some certain times that I think we're more creative during
Yeah,
our cycle and
definitely.
we got to
Huh?
capitalize on those times.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I love that recommendation of tracking your cycle. I think that's
Yeah.
really important. What about for women that are not cycling anymore, women that are going through or have gone through perimenopause and are menopausal?
Yeah. It's a good question. I don't know if I have a specific tip about that.
Well, how about telling us a little bit about your products to
Yeah.
support women in that phase?
Yeah, we are definitely coming out with menopause specific products because your needs are always different at different parts of your life. So we're really focused on perimenopause right now to menopause. And then after menopause, you need things that are like, calcium for your bones. And so we'll have more specific menopause products. But our perimenopause and our daily hormone balance helps you to menopause and during those early years of menopause. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. All
Yeah.
right, Ash, this is completely more partial to my field, but just out of curiosity, since I'm sure you track the results with your clients, how
Mhm.
many of your customers actually integrate natural medicine, Chinese medicine, acupuncture with your supplements? And I'm just curious if you've noticed any trends in terms of them complementing one another for
Interesting.
achieving
Yeah.
like health benefits.
I don't have exact data on that. I think a lot of women who use my products appreciate the Eastern and Western perspectives. I've
Hmm.
done a lot of consumer research within my actual customers and consumer or customer interviews, and that is something that they definitely look for and really appreciate. And I know with fertility, a lot of times women complement that with acupuncture.
Right.
It is something a mainstream doctor will recommend as being
Yeah.
successful. So yeah, it's really important that people understand that you can't just take a supplement and expect your life to change. You need to do all these different things, and that involves eating the right food, getting enough sleep, practicing, stress reduction practices. Because if your life is on fire, like a pill is not going to solve it for you, but it can definitely help you and get you over that hump. But you should also, be eating correctly and
Absolutely. Yeah.
reducing your stress and
Being
all.
mindful of all those other things in your life.
Yeah, and life ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes we're like really great taking supplements and we're eating really well, and sometimes we're not getting enough sleep, but then our supplements can help, take over and carry that load right there. So we're not all gonna be perfect all the time. Like that's really the point of supplements. It helps fill those gaps because we can't carry the load all the time. So we rely on supplements to kind of carry that load when we're not there to do it.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I love that point, actually. Well, one thing that I run up against a lot because we work with a lot of fertility centers and reproductive endocrinologists, they're really, really, some of them are really conservative about supplements,
Mhm.
and adaptogens and even things for like stress reduction, like ashwagandha. So I'm just curious for you if you guys have hit up against those types of questions too. Like if I'm in the process of going through some type of ART treatment, do I need to stop your supplements? The ones that have the herbal components. Obviously nutrients and vitamins, prenatals, those usually are not an issue. But I kind of hit a wall sometimes with these fertility specialists once patients are starting like an IVF cycle, for example.
Yes. Well, doctors aren't trained in supplements really. They're
That's
focused
right.
on pharmaceuticals and not even nutrition. So they're never going to recommend something they don't know about because their license is on the line and they don't know
Right.
about it. So they're not going to like say something they don't know. So that's really a reason why doctors don't talk about supplements very much because once again, there's no education on it in their schooling. Um, but you can definitely take herbals and supplements when you're trying to do IVF cycles. It's super helpful. If you're doing hormone replacement therapy, it will be a great companion to that as well. I mean, I think it's great to consult your doctor all the time about supplements that you're taking. I
Hmm.
think naturopathic doctors are I like to visit those ones because they have more a breadth and understanding of integrating botanicals and supplements into whatever you're going through at that moment, whether it be IVF or HRT. So it also is doctor specific and the type of training that doctor has. If they're
Right.
really, really like conventional mainstream, they might not know about supplements. And so they're not going to really recommend them.
Hmm. That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that kind of taking everything into consideration and polling everybody and then maybe making your decision on your own as a patient. I feel like most patients these days are pretty well informed and educated. and they do all
Yeah.
their research on their
Yeah.
own too. So,
And then on our website, we have a page of clinical data that talks about why we chose the ingredients that we did and points to the clinical studies that show the efficacy of, like, say, we're talking about mood swings for saffron. Like, we'll have a clinical data that shows, like, that's why we chose it and that's why it
mm,
works. So
that's awesome.
you can see that in the world of clinical data, it works. And doctors also like to see that too. So I mean, if you want to ask your doctor, you can give them that study as a reference, and
Nice.
that'll be immensely helpful for just
Yeah.
having that dialogue and conversation.
And you have several of these studies posted on your website about
Yeah, if
some
you
of the
go to the
single herbs.
clinical, there's a tab under learn about, and it's called clinical studies. It links out to these.
Perfect. That's really
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you for that tip.
Mhm.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining me. You're one of the few guests that I've had that I've actually never met. So it's really nice to get to know you, and I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to share? Anything upcoming? Any like talks that you're giving or any promotions that
Yes. Yeah.
you're
I
offering?
I made a discount code for your listeners today. It's
Ah,
Revive
thank
20.
you.
Yeah. So
Thank you. Thank
you can go
you.
to our website, getladywell.com, and use Revive 20 to get 20% off. And then you can find us on social media at Get Ladywell. We have post education, as I said, there on all those social channels. And our website, we have a great blog that has a lot of different resources about different life stages wherever you're at. I definitely recommend checking that out.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
all the resources that you offer. I'm definitely going to take a look at all that research. I think it's always hard to find research on herbs, whether it's single herbs or formulas. So
Yeah, and we just did a clinic or customer study on our daily hormone balance to prove the efficacy, because
nice.
you gotta test those things because we're always tweaking our formulas and always making things
Yes.
better. And so far, the study has been phenomenal. It's not quite done yet. I think it's wrapping up about a month left, but it's been about 89% women saw a vast improvement in all their symptoms. So we're super excited about that. So look out for that when we publish that on our website and social media.
Okay. Congratulations. Those are
Thank
awesome
you.
results.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. I'll make sure to share everything, the code in the show notes as well. And again, I really appreciate your time and good luck with the rest of your studies. And
Thank you.
yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more in the future.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.